Hello everyone, welcome back to Crime Conclusive. Today I'm bringing you a case that is so disturbing, so bizarre, that it will change everything you think you know about Lynette Hooker. You have never seen or heard the details I am about to reveal today. We are moving past the rumors and the old headlines because right now, in May 2026, the investigation into Lynette's disappearance hasn't just hit a turning point, it has exploded. While the world was looking at the waves, federal agents were waiting for a boat called Soulmate to dock. And now that it's under the lights at Fort Pierce, the silent witness is finally starting to talk. If you've been following this case for the last month, you know the official story. Brian Hooker says he and Lynette left for a quiet evening, a dinghy ride that ended in tragedy and a missing wife. But look at what's happening right now. Federal agents in blue nitro gloves aren't just checking a boat. They are sealing manila envelopes, documenting chain of custody, and literally taping off a perimeter. When that yellow crime scene tape goes up, the time for a benefit of the doubt is over. This is now a formal legal declaration. The U.S. Coast Guard isn't playing around. They've seized the vessel, and they are looking for something very specific that Brian might have missed. I know what you're thinking. It's been 5 weeks. The humid Bahamas heat, the salt, the passage of time, surely any evidence is gone, right? That's what the skeptics say. Even some forensic experts are worried that the biological trail has degraded. But here's the update that should send a shiver down your spine. Investigators today aren't just looking for what's on the floorboards. They are looking for what's hidden in the brain of the boat. The Soulmate is a modern sailing marvel, and in 2026, that means it's a data-generating machine. We're talking about a battery management system that acts like a digital diary. Think about it. Brian's story relies on the boat being empty from 7:30 p.m. on April 4th until the next morning. But a boat doesn't lie. Every time a light flickers on, every time the water pump runs for a shower, every time a phone is plugged into a USB port, this system logs it with a precise, unchangeable timestamp. If Lynette came back to that boat that night, if she turned on a tap to wash the salt off her skin, as her daughter Carly says was her unbreakable habit, that battery log will show it. There is no middle ground here. Either the boat stayed dark and silent, or it hummed with the electrical signature of two people living their lives. If that log shows activity after 8:10 p.m., Brian's entire timeline doesn't just crack, it shatters. And that's just the beginning. I've learned that the Coast Guard Investigative Service, the CGIS, are the ones leading this, not just the FBI. These guys are maritime specialists. They don't look at a boat like a house, they look at it like a crime scene that can be scrubbed but never truly cleaned. They are looking for focal areas of blood, and they're using luminol to find traces that have been bleached away. But while they scrub the fiberglass, they are also reaching into the cloud. Did you know the Soulmate had cameras? Most people missed this. There's a security system tucked right under the canopy, the bimini, where the couple spent most of their time. If that camera was running, it would have seen exactly who stepped back onto that deck after dinner. And here's the kicker. In 2026, these systems upload to remote servers instantly. You can wipe the hard drive on the boat, you can throw the camera into the ocean, but you cannot delete what SpaceX has already archived on a server halfway across the country. We are standing at the edge of a massive forensic revelation. The boat is in custody, the logs are being downloaded, and the digital ghost of Lynette Hooker is about to tell us exactly what happened that night. Now we have to look at the one thing that should be keeping Brian Hooker up at night. While the cameras and the battery logs are terrifying for someone with a secret, there is a third digital witness that is even harder to outrun. High up on the mast of the Soulmate sits a Starlink satellite terminal. In the middle of the ocean, this was Lynette's only connection to the world, the way she posted her updates and stayed in touch with her family. But here is what the maritime experts and federal agents know that most people don't. Starlink doesn't just provide internet, it creates a digital geofence. The moment any authorized device, like Brian's phone, Lynette's phone, or their Apple Watches, comes within range of that terminal, it connects. It's automatic. It's silent. And every single one of those connections is logged with a timestamp that is accurate to the millisecond. Brian claims they were nowhere near the Soulmate after they left in the dinghy. But if the Starlink server at SpaceX shows that Lynette's phone or her watch pinged that router at 8:15 p.m. or 9:30 p.m., the disappearance at sea narrative is dead. And unlike a phone that can be thrown overboard or a hard drive that can be smashed, these records don't live on the boat. They live on secure servers that the Department of Justice can, and likely already has, subpoenaed. You can't negotiate with a server record. It doesn't have a side to take, it just shows the truth. But even with all this high-tech data, we have to ask the most painful question: where is Lynette? Because while the boat tells us what happened on deck, it doesn't tell us where she went. For over a month, the Sea of Abaco has been searched by divers, drones, and local fishermen. They all say the same thing. That water is shallow, only about 15 feet deep in most places, and it's crystal clear. If something or someone goes into that water, the sea usually gives them back. especially something as bright as the neon green dry bag Lynette was supposed to have with her. But nothing has surfaced. Not a piece of clothing, not a personal effect, nothing. This has led investigators to a chilling parallel track. If she isn't in the water, she is somewhere else. And that somewhere else is becoming the focus of intense ground-level searches in areas Brian and Lynette knew well. Think about the locations they visited just weeks before. Snapper Point Marina, a place ruined by Hurricane Dorian that they had explored and even posted about on social media. Or Tahiti Beach, a remote shoreline they visited the very afternoon she vanished. In the dark, you don't go to places you don't know. You go to the familiar. There is one area specifically that is drawing a lot of attention right now, the western shore of Lubbers Quarters. It's a small private island sitting right in the middle of this mystery. It's sheltered from the heavy winds Brian described, meaning a dinghy could reach its rocky beaches even in the dead of night without struggling against the waves. It's remote, it's rarely visited by tourists, and it's the perfect place for a secret to stay buried in the limestone. Community volunteers have been scouring these shores, but the terrain is brutal. It's not soft sand, it's hard coral rock. Deep burial is almost impossible there, which means if something is hidden, it's likely tucked into the mangroves or the thick brush. And while human eyes might miss it, the forensic teams have brought in something else: cadaver dogs. These dogs can pick up the scent of decomposition even through water at a range of 30 feet. The net is tightening, and the search isn't just happening in the ocean anymore. It's happening on every inch of rock that Brian Hooker might have thought was empty. This is where the story shifts from unfortunate accident to a cold, hard forensic reality. It's now May 2026, and the Coast Guard hasn't just been waiting, they've been planning. While Brian Hooker is back in the States, reportedly tending to family, his sailboat, the one he claimed was his soulmate, was intercepted in the Gulf Stream by federal agents. It wasn't just a routine stop. They seized that boat because they believe the answers to Lynette's disappearance aren't at the bottom of the ocean. They're inside that cabin. Let's talk about the second boat. This is a detail that has just surfaced and is blowing this case wide open. The CGIS isn't just looking at Brian, they are hunting for the owners of another sailboat that was moored right next to the Soulmate on that fateful night of April 4th. Why? Because while Brian says the seas were unpredictable and violent, investigators want to know if the neighbors heard something else. A scream? A struggle? Or maybe just the sound of a dinghy returning to the Soulmate much earlier than Brian claimed. And then there's the physical evidence that simply shouldn't be there. Investigators are looking for Lynette's personal belongings. If she went overboard in a tragic accident, she should have had her essentials with her. But what happens if the FBI finds her favorite aquamarine bathing suit cover-up still neatly folded in a drawer? What if her Apple Watch, the one that should be at the bottom of the Sea of Abaco, is found sitting on its charging cable in the master cabin? These aren't just items. They are physical contradictions to Brian's entire story. We also have to look at the luminol factor. Even after a month, even after a delivery crew has been living on that boat, forensic science in 2026 is terrifyingly accurate. They are spraying every inch of that fiberglass. If there was even a drop of blood that someone tried to bleach away, the UV lights will make it glow like a neon sign. But here's the most heartbreaking part of the current update. While the feds are busy with the boat, the search on the ground has taken a chilling turn. Ashley Banfield and investigative teams have been spotted in the Abacos with cadaver dogs. They aren't looking for a survivor anymore. They are retracing every step Brian and Lynette took that last night from the Abaco Inn to the Firefly, and they are looking for where a body could have been hidden. Lynette's daughter Carly hasn't stopped fighting. She just spent her first Mother's Day without a phone call, without a text, and without a mother. She knows her mom's routines better than anyone. She knows Lynette wouldn't just fall without a fight. The pressure is mounting, the evidence is being cataloged, and as we speak, the American Crime Bureau is watching every move the feds make. But the truth is coming, and it's coming fast. This brings us to the final, most haunting piece of this puzzle. As we stand here in May 2026, the investigation has moved out of the tropical sun of the Bahamas and into the cold, sterile environment of a federal forensic lab in Florida. The Soulmate isn't just a boat anymore, it is a locked room mystery that is finally being forced open. While the world waits for the DNA results and the blood trace reports, there is a human element to this case that the headlines often overlook. Just a few days ago, Carly Ellsworth, Lynette's daughter, shared a message that broke the hearts of everyone following this journey. She spoke about her first Mother's Day without her mom, the silence where there should have been a phone call, the empty seat at the table on her own birthday just a week prior. This isn't just a forensic exercise for the American Crime Bureau. This is about a mother, a daughter, and a woman who deserve to come home. The Coast Guard and the FBI are now working against the clock, but they have an advantage that didn't exist in previous years. They are using advanced AI-driven data reconstruction to look at the Starlink and battery logs we discussed earlier. They aren't just looking at when things happened, they are looking at the rhythm of the boat. They can tell the difference between the electrical draw of a refrigerator cycling on and the specific draw of the winch being used to lift something heavy. If that winch was used in the middle of the night when Brian says they were lost at sea in a dinghy, there is no explanation on Earth that can save him. And that is the reality Brian Hooker is facing today. He has maintained his innocence, and his attorney asks us to give him the benefit of the doubt. We hear that. But the benefit of the doubt ends where the physical evidence begins. The Sea of Abaco is clear, but the truth has been murky for a month. Now, with the seizure of the vessel and the involvement of the highest levels of U.S. federal law enforcement, the water is clearing. We are looking for an aquamarine cover-up, a royal blue headscarf, and a reason why a woman who loved her life would simply vanish from a deck she knew like the back of her hand. Whether it's a server in a SpaceX facility or a trace of blood under a floorboard that the luminol finally reveals, the silence is about to end. Lynette Hooker's voice is going to be heard through the data her husband couldn't delete. So, Borki Tex. Thank you for staying with us at Crime Conclusive as we track every second of this investigation. We aren't going to stop until we know where Lynette is and until justice is served for her and the family she left behind. If you have any information or if you've seen anything in the Abacos that felt out of place, now is the time to speak. The truth doesn't stay buried forever.